Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Mjolnir at the Movies. This week we're going to be looking at Rollerballs. That's right, both of them. The one that works and the other one that didn't drop. So the first one is from 1975 and is a classic. The one from 2002, not really. With me as ever, James and Neil. Hello to you.
Hello.
Hello.
And I'm David Yorkshire, of course, still here. Now then, I think we'll get the remake, or not really a remake, but the second version, this appalling 2002 effort out of the way first. So I suppose the question is, what was the point?
Well, I never watched it.
Well, I did, and I would say that there was almost no point to do it, to watch it, other than just to confirm it's a terrible film. 70 million, and it looks like a made-for-TV episode. It's so bad. The acting's terrible. The writing's terrible. The photography is unbelievably bad, like a bad student effort. Not even like amateur. It's bad amateur. Like you would say, oh, there's no talent here. If you saw this, it's just terrible, and it cost 70 million. That's the unbelievable part. It must have just all been just burned on something. Like somebody was spent it all on catering or something.
How could you make a remake about a movie about a bunch of guys on roller skates and it cost you $70 million to do it?
The sets look like they cost about maybe £70,000 or dollars to make. And that's, you don't think there was anything spent in this. They're wearing sort of repurposed football gear. You think, well, that would cost you maybe a few $100.
Do you know what
maybe a custom mask or two, maybe 1,000. Where's this millions?
Do you know what I think they did for the sets? I think they just borrowed the set of Gladiators, the TV series.
Aye. Very
well could have.
It's that in a skate park. It looks like a lot of stuff stolen from a skate park.
Yeah, that's right. It's a cross between Gladiators and a skate park. You're right.
Yeah.
How that cost 70 million? I don't know. Jean Reno's fee, perhaps. Jean
fee.
Jean Reno, my word! I mean, finest actor of his generation, or what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. And then you got that annoying bastard, Paul Heyman, doing the commentary all the way through.
Oh yeah.
From WWE, isn't it now? Not WWF, World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah.
And he is seriously an annoying bastard. Jewish as well, interestingly. I just thought I'd throw it in there. And you've got Pink somewhere in there as well, haven't you?
Briefly for about 10 seconds she appears, so I don't know why they needed to have the cost of her.
That probably cost about 45 million alone.
That's right.
Yeah.
There we go. Another ka-ching. The stunts were appalling.
You did get Rebecca's tits though.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Which probably the highlight of the film. I wouldn't pay 70 million even for a grope, but it was worth a look while I was there.
I think I might watch it now.
And the storyline, I think, was written by some autistic 14-year-old guy.
Yeah, that's my impression as well.
Some schoolboy who, kind of wrote out his fantasies, basically.
Right. And are they still on skates or are they on blades?
No, they're on skates still.
Now
Then, are they? Now?
Oh, I think you're actually involved in that one. I think it's blades.
Oh, they've made it more advanced, have they?
I think
with the blades. So it's not like it. Yeah.
It was so shitty, nothing really sticks in your mind anyway.
Yeah.
No, that's right. The whole scene, the whole setup was appalling. Basically, I think it was also just done to throw in a bit of neo-Marxist propaganda. So you had women in the teams, even though they wouldn't have been physically equipped to deal with the level of violence.
The incredibly well-educated and lineaged black guy.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah.
The guy who was the son of a paediatrician, and he was an accountant, a qualified accountant himself. decided to get involved in this criminal underground sport.
Yes, the LL Cool J, isn't it?
Mm.
Yes.
The man whose name I found out stands for Ladies Love Cool James. The most cringe-worthy title anybody could call themselves. Even if you were drunk and you said that for a joke, you think people would laugh at you in the bar. You wouldn't turn up for a week and hope everybody forgets.
Yeah, there's no inferiority complex in naming yourself that, is there?
The ultra try hard.
Not half. Yeah, and of course, but there was a interesting thing that I noticed in the film where basically it's meant to be this ideal family guy, and yet then he's chatting up prozzies in a bar. Talk about reverting to type. So
Let's remember it wasn't who wrote it, so people can blame whoever groups or individuals were involved in the production. But he's shocking.
Sounds like a terrible movie.
Yeah.
It is. I did say Rebecca's tits, that's the only thing worth in it, folks.
Did you notice as well at the end where there was that little uprising and revolution, you got that beardy Karl Marx lookalike stand up?
Ridiculous as well. It was obviously ripped right out of Gladiator stuff as well. That's what I was thinking. But it was ridiculous. You then had them whacking people out the crowd. And I thought, wait a minute, you're just now beating down on random people in the crowd. You don't even know who these people are.
That's right. And John Riddle's character, it was such a pantomime villain. It's so ridiculous. You know, there was no motivations or anything that were thought about as to why he would do any of this.
He had a big black cape and a twirly mustache in his head.
I am a crazy Kazakhstani. Oh, this is why I do these things.
Yeah,
what? Listen to my accent. Can you not sense that I am just evil?
Yeah.
What's the whole parts of the plot that made no sense? And one of the things that probably struck you, Dave, I mean, Neil was saved the pain, but did it strike you, Dave, that when you get to about maybe halfway to about 3/4, you realise that, wait a minute, I've watched this for an hour or so, and nothing's actually happened. Where's the plot? He's turned up in this rollerball, something's happened, and I'm still waiting for any kind of plot or message or anything to arrive.
James, you don't need plot when you've got car chases and tits.
Yeah.
Them's the rules.
I agree.
If it was an hour and a half, I could have just put up with it, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of car chase, the absolutely terrible and boneheaded choice to have that huge long segment in the night vision mode. Do you remember? But
that's right. What was that all about?
Yeah, it was filmed at night, okay, but we've seen plenty of films before and after done at night. Why did it have to be in that horrible green screen mode? Night vision mode with that grey-green colour. And it stayed that way, shot after shot, angle after angle. And he thought, well, it would have made sense if they're trying to hint that this has been recorded in a camcorder, like some of these found footage ones that were done popular at the time. But it wasn't. This was an action film with a massive budget of 70 million, and these were just normal camera angles. And instead it took you out the film because you thought, well, wait a minute, am I watching somebody's camcorder footage here?
Yeah.
Which it probably... It should have been done in a camcorder for 70 quid, this whole film.
Just run out of cash, I suppose, after buying the Ferraris and everything and setting fire to them and so on. But yeah, one of the interesting things, and sort of moving on to the original, the sheer difference in the quality can be seen in the openings, I think. In the opening to the 2002 version, you've got this race on this skateboardy thing.
Which has no connection to the rest of the film at all. Another pointless, very long scene.
Now you know what it's all about. He's a wrong un from the wrong side of the tracks. It is going to make good, you know. and then they get the black guy in, of course, who's his friend, and he bails him out of trouble because that's what black guys do, people.
And he even says that even a goofy white kid like him can get laid where they're going.
Yeah. Because
I really want to watch it now.
Even the hero's not allowed to be heroic without a
That's
black
like,
guy.
He's got to be belittled, smacked around, made fun of. The hero!
That's right. So yeah, so he's got in trouble with the cops because he's from the wrong side of the tracks and so on. And you know, you can write this on the back of a cornflake packet, really, can't you?
Yeah.
That's where they found it.
Now, in contrast, coming over onto the proper version, the 1975 version, one of the most iconic openings of any film in history. You've got the stage is set, basically. You're looking down on the arena where it's all going to happen. And that's basically it. To the tune of Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. On organ, of course, on pipe organ.
The way it should be played.
The way it should be played. But why? Why?
Because it's a great piece of music, and I was actually going to mention this. I'm glad you brought it up, because no matter who you are, you've heard that tune somewhere. If it's a mobile phone ringing, if it's someone's doorbell, you've heard that tune, and it's ingrained in your memory. And it's easy to remember, and the notes are almost that. They almost haunt you because you know every single one of them. And you know how the tune changes.
Okay.
And how it...
Yeah.
So it was suggesting that the movie was psychological programming from the get-go, which is why you hear that tune everywhere.
Okay, but there are lots of tunes like that.
But I think that's the number one, though. I think that is one of the most... You ask anybody to name their favorite classical tune, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say Moonlight Sonata or that.
Right. Okay, yeah, I'll go along with that. Could have chosen a bit of Elgar or something like that, though. Nimrod, perhaps.
But most people aren't quite as into classical music as me and you are. Most people just remember what their favorite ringtone is.
I have a different idea for why they used it.
Go on.
What kind of music is it?
Organ music.
Yeah.
Bach. It's Baroque.
Yeah. Where do you find an organ?
In a church.
Yeah.
Cathedral.
Yeah, exactly. It's cathedral music. What's this?
Yeah,
what's this arena replacing?
It's basically a coliseum, isn't it? Really.
It is. This is the new religion. This is the religion of the masses, sport. And this is exactly what we've got today, because this film, of course, is a critique of exactly the kind of society we've developed today. And so that, for me, is why we open with Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Because what we're looking at is a cathedral. And what we're looking at is a mass, basically. And if you look at what happens next, when the players enter and they go to the tables, and and it's almost ritual-like, and they're very small.
And let's not get excited here, but what number is the main character's shirt?
Oh yes, of course, number 6, and of course
that number again.
Yes, and and what ethnicity is James Caan?
Is he a Hindu?
Nope.
No, he's not. He's not from Japan or anything, is he? No.
No.
Oh, he's Jewish. Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, get there eventually.
Yeah.
There's a big list to go through.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's
Vivian was next.
as you've brought up the numerology straight away. What number is his buddy Moonpie?
9.
Yeah.
69.
What happens to Moonpie though during the film?
He gets killed.
Sort
He
of.
gets cocky. He doesn't listen. He's very you know, when the Japanese guys comes along to give them a demonstration, he's very racist. I want to say.
Yeah.
He's
right.
am I right? Am I on the right lines here? He's kind of racist, a little belligerent.
Absolutely. What's his ethnicity?
He's a white guy, a very big, mostly white guy.
Yeah, and what's the number 6 upside down?
9.
Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah. See, people, you come and listen to a podcast and you get numerology lessons.
Of course, number 9 is also a very pagan number in opposition to the number 6 of Judeo-Christianity. The film was directed by a certain Norman Jewison, Jewison, yes, who claims to have no Jewish ancestry.
Right.
Don't know.
His mother was called something Weaver, though. Not that that's a nod, but
that's right. Yeah. But yeah, he claims not to have Jewish ancestry. But very odd that he's chosen all these numbers.
He's still got Jew in the name, though. His name's got Jew in it, so
yeah,
he'll never get rid of that one.
And very odd that he's picked a Jew in a leading role, who wasn't really that noted for leading roles at the time. He'd come off the back of things like The Godfather, of course, but it wasn't really the lead in The Godfather. And he'd come off the back of some westerns, one I remember with John Wayne and Robert Mitchum, but they were the bigger stars. So it's interesting how he got put into this starring role, and had a big number 6 slapped on him. Now that we've got that out of the way,
there's a lot of 6s in this movie, though. I should warn you, there's a lot of 6s in this movie.
Oh, go on, Neil.
Later on down the movie, you see the burning trees. The girl goes up with a gun and she fires them at the various trees, and they all go on fire. And there is a shot right at the end of that scene where there's 6 burning trees.
That's very interesting, because what does the Bible teach us about trees?
You tell us.
Burn their sacred groves.
Burn them.
A sort of burnt offering, would you say?
No, it's a command that basically wherever you find non-Jews, you destroy them utterly and you burn their sacred groves, or non-Judeo-Christians, I should say, because the Christians were as bad, of course, at chopping down trees and burning them and everything, because to pagans, trees are very sacred objects. Why are they very sacred? Because they give us life. You know, they are old. You know, they grow to be extremely old. They connect us with our ancestors, and also, as I say, they give us life. They give oxygen out into the world. We cannot live without them, people. And this is why trees are very sacred and important. So, paganism is environmentalism at the end of the day. Whereas Judeo-Christian thought is absolutely against that kind of thing. And this is why we reject it as the nonsense that it is, and the utter evil that it is in the world. Right, I've had my bit on the soapbox now.
Yep.
So get back to the film.
Yeah, this is your movie, James. You blow us away with your rollerball knowledge.
Well, I like the film, but I didn't claim to be an expert in rollerball.
Sorry. I thought this was one of your favorites.
It is one I like, but I don't know deep lore of it, if that's what you mean. I have noticed that it did, despite the fact that the film is talked about very little and isn't really a film I've ever heard anybody say, "Oh, have you ever seen such and such?" You know, there's a lot of low-budget horror films that end up becoming icons, like Halloween and stuff, but this film just seems to have skipped right by most people's attention.
Yeah,
and sort of forgot about it. Although it did have a knock-on influence, because you'll see, especially now with the computer games, video games, and so on, you'll see loads of games that have taken inspiration from it, and it's very obvious to take inspiration because you'll see that even like the poster art, the style, and the aesthetics and so on are often the copied and amplified in those media as well. You'll see it in games, board games, comics. So there's tons of these sort of, especially the smaller niche media, that have sort of embraced it and gone with the idea. Though just like the remake film, they all completely ignore any of the social commentary and just concentrate on the violent, the ultra violent future sport aspect.
And is it actually a game? Like, is there any games that are similar to it in real life that they actually do?
There is actually a whole stack from. I looked up to see because I knew that there was a few. There's the board game. Games Workshop did a couple of board games based on it. Though they put their own spin in it because you don't want to get sued and you want to match it up with your other marketing tool, genres. But they've done games based at this ultra violent, and there's a whole bunch of computer games. There was a famous one, Speedball, on the Amiga and 64, and it was on PlayStation as well. And there's a whole bunch of these games all based on the same thing. You'll see the same helmet and the same. Knuckle, especially, you'll see that that iconic scene of them holding the ball up, the steel ball with the spiked knuckle leather glove.
Oh yeah.
You'll see that in a lot of artwork. You'll see that same scene repeated, which gives you the nod where the inspiration was, because it's the only way they could get that same scene the way they did is by watching the original film.
But did they have they converted the movie into an actual physical game in any way?
Oh, you mean
where people actually do go out on like bikes and skates and they?
If they had done, I'd be watching that right now.
Because it would be a glorious sport to watch, and it would be something that it would be great. I'd be one
that's what I thought when I was watching this. How amazing!
There every week.
I thought how amazing this game would be to watch, especially before it got too nasty with the violence at the start. There was enough sort of violence, but still enough rules and honor to keep it. Just civil enough and just dangerous enough to be exciting and interesting. But later on, obviously, it was just a bit too much. I don't want to just watch some guy get slaughtered.
Yeah.
But at the start, though, I thought, wow, I would have watched. If there was Rollerball, tomorrow, I'd be buying a ticket to see this. It looked fantastic. I mean, it looked absolutely amazing. Yeah, and what I liked, especially the first film compared to the second, the first film, the violence was spot on. It was every bit of violence you thought, oh, and you could really feel it because it was just enough to be, when it was meant to be nasty, it was enough to be really nasty, and you thought, oh, I felt that, or he's not getting up from that. Well, in the remake, it suffers from a lot of modern remakes where you see some guy spinning through the air like a windmill, obviously because of wire work or CGI. Yeah. And I can't connect with that. I can't imagine what it's like to spin through the air like a windmill at 200 miles an hour. But when some guy gets his helmet ripped off and a spiked knuckle in the back of the head, you feel the back of your head and go, oh, you think that is nasty. Or you see some of the people in the 1975, the original, falling over backwards at speed and hitting his head on the track. And you flinch at that thinking, oh, that was a bad one. It was filmed brilliantly. The violence and how they spaced it was filmed great.
Yeah. I tell you, I've got this sort of phobia at bowling alleys, those things that fire the ball up into the rack because of that scene where the guy gets his head jammed in the thing at the circuit and it fires the steel ball into his head. And every time I go into bowling alleys, I'm kind of like flinching a little bit when the ball comes shooting back, like through the little kind of the arch thing.
It's just wee wheels, Neil. You don't need to worry.
Yeah. You hear that popping sound and you're like, oh, get my hand out the way.
Well, according to the short story written by William Harrison, who also wrote the screenplay, the balls actually weigh 20 pounds.
Wow, so, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah,
it would be if it were steel.
Absolutely, and especially if they're fired at you.
And they just and stuff, but it's like a cannon, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Gets his head jammed in the thing and the ball goes around the track and hits him.
Yeah.
And it didn't show it. It didn't show it. It showed it slightly. But it cut away at the right point. It didn't have his head explode or blood going everywhere or anything fantastical like that. It was very subtly done. And you could hear in the sound, the sort of crunching sound. That's what really made that scene pretty horrendous.
Yeah, I've seen
The sound work was spot on.
yeah, I've seen some buffoon of a critic saying that the violence is quite dated. I don't find it dated at all. I find it incredibly realistic. Obviously, some sap who's never been involved in violent sport. But anyway, this is this is pretty nasty stuff. This is how violence really is. It's short,
Yeah.
it's sharp, and it's brutal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the thing about it. Whenever something happened and if somebody lost attention, let his guard down, and that was it. It was 2 seconds, it was over, because somebody just went whack, he was down, he gets stomped or something, and that was it. Yeah, it was very realistic in that sense. There was none of the, ninja kicking like the Matrix for half an hour.
Yep.
That's,
and the actors as
that's
well.
right, yeah. There's a sort of fashion in the modern era to slow violence and stunts and everything down, whereas here you get it at full speed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's done at real time, so everything goes sort of bang, 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 and this is really how something like a sport like this would be played.
Yeah, and you see people get exhausted and injured. It was great acting because you felt like everybody was getting tired very quickly, which you would do in a real fight. You'll get tired really quickly. You don't do all this, really athletic swinging and kicks and punches like they do in modern films endlessly, and you're hardly losing breath.
Yeah.
But in this, you thought, oh god, these people are getting worn out minutes into it when it gets really intense.
Yeah. It looks dangerous. It looks like the sort of game where you would get heavily damaged in if you played it. It doesn't look like a great fun game to play like football. It looks like this could be seriously painful. Like I could get my head run over by a bike before the game's over, and nobody would care.
Yeah, and going back to the beginning of the film, isn't it an amazing contrast between that, that beautiful music and the solemnity of the empty arena, and then all of a sudden you're still in the arena, but the entire atmosphere changes with the roaring crowd and the ultra-violence on the field of play, if you like.
Yeah. So going from something really beautiful and well composed and renowned by many people to a jeering mob of people screaming somebody's name.
Yeah, I mean, it's very well directed. Shall we get to the story? Because the story, I think, is again an extremely well scripted story, and certainly William Harrison beefed out his short story and changed it somewhat as well for the screen, and I think he changed it for the better. Would someone like to take me through the motivations of Johnny E and so on? I'm going to start with his name actually, because did anyone think about his name?
I suppose,
Well,
but not too indeed. I was too busy concentrating on all the sixes.
Well, yeah. Well, again, Jonathan. Who's Jonathan in the Bible? He's the warrior leader who God wants to get rid of. Basically, he wants to end the line of Saul.
Okay, I see.
And so Jonathan E is pretty much up against this Yahweh God character, Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah.
And of course he doesn't have a proper last name. It's just an initial, E. Why is that? It's because people don't have surnames anymore. They don't have proper families in any in any way that we know of it. Everything is corporate. The whole world has gone completely corporate, and that might also sound like it's very Marxist as well. But the two things are extremely similar when you consider it. Both want to do away with family loyalties and stuff like that. Because if you look at his motivations, what's his motivation throughout the film?
Get his wife back.
Exactly, yeah. Which the corporation has taken away and given it to an executive.
Yeah.
But also, there's this thing he says about 3/4 of the way through that he likes learning things. He's got this desire to learn things and find things out. I think he's driven by this desire just to get the answers to things, to question everything. And do you notice when anybody ever questions anybody in authority, they get handed like a little like silver box thing with will look like mints or whatever inside, and they're given one of these as a gesture of friendship, but they're actually these drugs that they're being fed to keep them submissive. And I can't remember many scenes in which James Caan's character consumes one of these pills. I think he does it once right at the start. But the less he seems to do it compared to the other actors, the more he finds out about what's going on, which is why he becomes quite reluctant to retire from the sport.
Well, the pills are described repeatedly as giving people dreams.
Yeah,
so that they're essentially feeding people dreams to keep them passive and quiet. You know, they're living in this fake dream world instead. And
there's the party, isn't there, when they're all spaced out. And they're all dancing with each other and sitting down watching this loud TV that's blaring repeat performances over and over and over again. And the rest of them are just sitting there almost catatonic, really. And but James Caan's character, he never seems to be in that way. He doesn't ever seem to be coked out or spaced out on anything.
No, the other thing he has, of course, is he has his ranch, which means he's very much a guy who's close to nature. And of course, this contrasts with the executives who deliberately destroy nature, you know, when they shoot the trees up.
Yeah. But does this ranch really exist? Because I thought a part of the premise of the story was that these places don't exist. So is the ranch maybe a place he goes to in his mind?
No, I think he does go riding when he gets the wife visits.
Right.
That's right. No, his ranch is real. He's bought that with all the cash that he's made because he's, you know, he's the biggest sports star on the planet.
Because they do say to him he gets to live as if he was the corporate class, but he wasn't of the corporate class. So that's he should be thankful. That's kind of implied by the corporate executive.
See.
But of course this is the reason they want rid of him at the same time, because he's outgrown his station. This is the fear, of course, that they have of him, in that he's become an idol to the masses.
The eternal danger of the rising hero.
Yeah, exactly right. You see, this is an amazingly rightist film by accident. It's not the film that Jewison wanted to make, and yet he's ended up with this film that pushes all the right buttons for us, even though, you know, the lead character is played by a Jew and so on. But looking at it, you know, if you just sort of look at him as a white man, because I mean, his character is basically a white guy. Probably. Jews aren't very noted for their sporting prowess, are they?
No.
So, if we take him as a white guy, and as this hero figure, battling against this corporate world, this liberal corporate world as well, he's basically our guy. And this film is our film. And it's not the film... The film that Jewison said he wanted to make, and it's very interesting, is where he's criticising the violence of sports and the futility of sporting life and so on. But that's not the film he made. It's the film he wanted to make, but it's not the film he made.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing with the remake as well. Apparently there was a wiretapping controversy with the remake where the director illegally wiretapped the producer to find out what kind of film he wanted to make, to try and see if their interests aligned. You wonder if there was a plan to make a deeper film, more like the original, before they turned it into the horrible sideshow that it turned into. You know, they used this wiretapping or some sort of pressure to produce what they did. Because it's a bizarre thing to take this illegal, you know, highly illegal risk, and he even lied to the FBI about it, which, you know, and he went to prison.
Yeah, they just wanted to get a film made and get it out there as anything to appease the people who funded it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't normally take the risk of federal prison lying to the
No.
FBI about wiretapping, unless you really, really had something, reason to make the film as it turned out, I'd assume, because you think the director would be the one with the pool. It's a very strange thing. I've never seen anything explanation what the difference of opinion was, but to go to such highly illegal lengths to ensure the film turned out the way it did, it seems it's a bit bizarre.
Well,
Yeah,
I suppose that's.
I mean, I wouldn't go to prison for Rollerblade. Not 2002. Even for Rebecca's tits, I wouldn't go to prison.
I suppose that's where we've got to now, though, where everything has to be policed so much in the film world that they're willing to do anything just to make sure that they're on track with the message and so on. And
It gives you an insight into what must be going on. I mean, okay, I've heard about that just because it ended up a federal investigation in a prison case, somebody imprisoned, so it's public record. But how much of this stuff goes on every day, I wonder? And I just don't hear about it. The public doesn't hear about it because there's no involvement of the police or FBI. Nobody was caught.
Yeah.
I mean, I only know about that because somebody got caught because we're obviously not that good at it.
But going back to Norman Jewison, the film that he wanted to make, it's interesting that that critic who I mentioned earlier, he talked about this film being very progressive in that you have blacks and white executives, blacks and white sports stars together, and so on, and that this is progressive. But actually, this is a society that's being critiqued, isn't it? So the film itself becomes its own critique.
It's good about society.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
And the hero, you see what the hero wants all along is to completely reject that society and get back to family. He wants to live in a ranch and have a family. He doesn't want anything to do with what even he's been raised in, because remember, this guy was raised in this society. The only people that remember what came before are now quite old. So even though he's been raised in it completely, he's still rejecting it just by instinct.
Yeah.
And he talks about the danger of too much comfort. This is a man raised in comfort, yet he talks about how he thinks that there's a danger in surrendering your freedoms just for comfort and safety.
That's right. In fact, with that scene with Mr. Bartholomew when he's in his luxury villa, and Bartholomew talks about, we've ended all wars, we've nothing but comfort, and tries to persuade him to retire. That basically, you just need to retire. That's it. Why fight it and everything? Because we've got everything that we've got plenty. It's all that we want. It's interesting as well during that scene. When he walks through the crystals, these sort of ambient crystals and everything, and Mr. Bartholomew has created this atmosphere of complete tranquility, and yet Johnny E is like a bull in a china shop, and wrecks it completely. Sends all the crystals jangling.
He touches it for a moment, and he cuts himself as if even going near this complete false tranquility hurts him. He's completely rejecting it by his nature.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. I think that was a wonderful scene. I think that perhaps one of the criticisms I could give of that scene is that Bartholomew goes into the explanation too much, and it sort of insults our intelligence a little bit. But
it doesn't always go wrong if you can aim it just, it was maybe a bit too far for us, but some people maybe need a wee bit of hand-holding.
Yeah, perhaps you're right, yeah.
It's good to have something that we still get a lot of enjoyment, and therefore by adding that wee bit in there, other people can also get a bit of enjoyment out of it, and I can't resent that too much. It didn't hamper my enjoyment by giving you a bit of exposition.
No, that's true. I think that the exposition was done far better when he went to visit the libraries and so on, where he gets sent from one place to another, and he's trying to find history. He's trying to find out how we got here, and of course he can't. And this is one of the amazing things, and why it speaks to our time as well, is that all records have been put onto computer. There's no need for real books anymore, supposedly, because everything's been digitized.
Increasing reliance on AI.
Yeah, that's right. And yet, AI, of course, is not giving him any answers, and he can't find any answers. You see, this is why I have a proper library with real books, folks. Old books.
You don't need to
as
worry
well.
about begging an AI for a read.
That's right. Because we're in a situation now where they're expurgating books, where even Mark Twain has been expurgated because it contains the word nigger.
And we're at the point as well where people are relying on internet websites to tell them what happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it'll keep getting worse as this depth of history continues. But we already know that people can go and change a website. Even Internet Archive websites get told to purge certain archives. So these things aren't, immune to tampering. I mean, somebody could easily go into these places and change them. And even if I had a backup myself and said, but look, they've tampered it, it's now my word against theirs. It's not a physical proof. While a book can be proven true or false, it's impossible to argue with a physical book in print, because there it is. You can carbon date it if you want to. It exists.
Yeah. I remember back in my BMP days when there was that controversy about the BMP membership list being leaked. Back must have been around 2007ish, something like that, I think it was. But the BBC wrote an article on it, and there was this, I think it was Jackie Smith at the time, the MP, said, "What have these people got to hide anyway?" And I wrote in, and I assume quite a lot of people wrote in saying, well, basically, because the left go out, these Antifa people who Labour sponsor, because of course it was Labour government at that time, go out attacking people's homes and so on. And within a few minutes, that article had been reworded, and that comment by Jackie Smith had been erased. So this happens all the time, and as I say, from the worst possible sources as well, like the BBC, who people used to trust. I don't think they do now, but they certainly used to trust the BBC, and rather mistakenly. So it just shows you how easy it is to do it.
Yep. And I've seen proof where people took snapshots of websites where, like the BBC's in particular, where even the bits where they say, updated and such, to give you the impression of honesty, like, we've updated this. I've seen absolute proof, and I've witnessed it myself, having read the articles occasionally, where the article's changed, but they don't say it was updated. So all that stuff, that bit where they say, it was updated in such and such a date, that's a voluntary thing. They can put that in to tell you it was updated when it suits them, to give the appearance of honesty. But when they want to cover something up, you won't get a notice about it. It'll just vanish. It'll just change. And that's now how it's always been. And you've got to try and prove otherwise. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, these are the games that people play all the time. And so we're very much getting into this age that Rollerball predicted.
Yeah. It was actually, the date for Rollerball is 2018, believe it or not.
This is a year after. No.
Yep, we are in Rollerball time.
Is that mentioned in the film that it's 2018?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I didn't notice that.
I actually didn't notice it the first time. I only found out looking up stuff about the film after.
Mm-hmm. But where's that then? Where does it say?
I think it's on one of the news broadcasts, isn't it?
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't notice that at all. But I'll tell you another thing as well that was interesting, was the insightfulness on how the architecture would play out. Did you notice how much architecture features in the film? There is, both interiors and exteriors. The aesthetics of corporate life.
Also the orange, isn't there?
Yeah,
that's
lots
like the
of orange.
energy company's colour.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so, of course, the team colours from that. And so you've got as well the corporate anthem, of course. Everyone stand for the corporate anthem at the beginning.
And a great critique of the kind of false tribalism people have around sport, how meaningless it is to be ready to come to blows over one imported team over another for a corporate entity. You know, something that's just owned by rich people who wouldn't care if your whole house and your whole family fell into a pit one day. Yeah, you're going to fight for them, you know, in fisticuffs with the other team. Absolute nonsense. But the film critiques that nicely. You see these people passionate about something that's not passionate about them or representing them at all.
Yeah. Have you noticed as well on all their suits and all their bits of gear, if someone's not wearing entirely orange, whether it's in their lapel or their shirt collar, there's like a little orange tag.
Like a little rank insignia.
Yeah, like a little rank insignia you might see on like a military shirt or a military jacket. I think James Caan, his character's got two on his neck and on his collar. I just noticed that.
Had 4 or 5 stripes. That must be like the rank, the social rank.
It must be something like that. But I just noticed a few little things like that.
Yeah.
It was a nice touch that shows again quality filmmaking, where you could have that in there, and you notice that through the film because you see it not prominently, but it's in the shot over and over again. You see the different characters, and you can piece that together because it's not insulting the audience's intelligence. It's letting you put that together, and you realise a little deeper layer. You've got a society here. You get a situation where everybody has to wear these badges to display their rank, which then must give them certain privileges and access. So they've explained the whole background with nothing but a wee bit of ribbon on people's collar.
Yeah, it's
and
brilliant.
Never actually ramming it home to you or ruining the film by padding out a huge block of explanation. Oh, well, in this society, there's these ribbons, and these ribbons represent... You don't need to tell people that. Just have it subtly in the background like that, and people will work it out.
Yeah, in their own time, and it'll be more fun for them. But
yeah, and even if they take a couple of watches or some time, or maybe somebody says to them, "Oh, did you notice?" And they go, "Oh, I never thought of that," but right enough. A lot of people, afterwards will enjoy finding out about that way, and it'll give a deeper layer. Although it's not the modern trend, but if anybody's trying to do anything amateur, don't insult or look down on your audience. Take wee hints like that as the way to do it. Yeah. That's how you do storytelling,
And the main bad guy, I'm not sure what ranking he's supposed to be, but I know he's pretty near the top. Did you notice what happened when James Caan goes to meet him, and he's surrounded by like these bits of glass and metal hanging down?
We did it.
Yep.
We did it when you were at the toilet.
Oh, did you? I'll be waiting for ages to do this.
We went over that well.
Oh, okay.
We should probably cut this bit out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
no, it's okay. I'll be funny.
Right. I'll get the ball rolling again. Ball rolling. Oh dear.
Oh no.
Yeah, that chief, I get the impression that chief, he was second only to the ruling circle. That's the only people he was serving. He was one step down from the rulers, although it was a step down like a servant to a king, because you got the impression he was really scared of these people above. He didn't want to even waste their time talking to them. He knew that although he might be high up, they could click their fingers and he'd be flushed.
And why did you discuss why those things are hanging down? Like the razor sharp bits of glass?
Why?
Well, because James Caan touches them accidentally. He just puts his fingers on it to settle them down, and he cuts his finger open. Like, what is he hanging there? Is it razor blades and glass?
I think it was glass and stamped metal.
They're crystals.
Would you cut yourself?
Yeah.
Would you? Oh.
Yeah, I knew something
dangerous, isn't it?
These things. I knew somebody that's big into these things that can be like razors sometimes.
Why would you have something that dangerous just hanging about?
Looks pretty.
Oh. Got me there.
Oh dear.
It was meant to be for the ambience of the room and so on. It's really into all that. This idea that crystals have certain properties that give certain moods and so on.
The corporate
feng shui and all that.
Like I say, somebody might cut their finger on this.
Yeah. but the corporate bosses covered his face like in prayer when he comes in, and he
That's
keeps
right.
doing that for a while. So it's like, some sort of modern holy place, this corporate centre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting going back to corporate loyalties and corporate colours and so on. Of course, the team are meant to be completely loyal to the company or corporation, and therefore also race blind. Of course, the black and white characters, they don't see race, but they do when they're against the Japanese team. But that's but it's interesting. But then suddenly they go from seeing them as a rival corporation to a rival race. And
You
there's
think
lots
that
of
was
racial
Because they're allowed
epithets.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
The lid's been taken off,
that's
and
right.
they're allowed to express that suddenly because it suits the corporation.
You think there was a little bit of a nod there about how they underestimate the Japanese, and the big muscly guy with the handlebar mustache talks about how he can't wait to get over there and smash them. Was that like a little nod to World War II and how maybe they were underestimated and the damage they could have done? Maybe Vietnam underestimating them and going in there.
Yeah,
Was there a nod to that?
I think so, especially as this was released in 1975. I think that
Yeah.
that Vietnam is very much on the mind here.
Mm.
But also it's interesting that I can't remember if it's Johnny E or one of the other characters who says it. And says, watch out or they'll hop all over you and bring you down,
That's exactly what
in a
happened.
mass. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it foreshadowed the event.
Yeah, and he was very reluctant to listen to the Japanese guy that came in to instruct them, and he shrugged it off. And I really do think there was a little bit of a nod there to people who thought that they were going to go into Vietnam and just win.
Yeah.
To the little guys, and who was it that described them as the little yellow guys in the black pajamas?
Hmm.
And maybe a little nod to that. I don't know.
Yeah. The tactician there was Quincy's guy, wasn't it? If you ever watched Quincy.
Oh yeah. Gonna do another autopsy.
With Quincy's buddy.
That's right.
Oh.
Burt Kwok was in there as well. Did you notice Burt Kwok as the medical guy when Moon Pie gets brain damaged?
Oh yeah.
So Kato.
I think that's well, Kato. Never leaves your head, these iconic roles, do they?
No, I know, and so whenever I was watching it, I was just sort of thinking, he's going to do something now. He's going to do something.
Or Peter Sellers is going to leap out and start kicking him.
That's the thing, because I associate Burt Kwok completely with that character. I can't take him seriously in anything now. But yeah, so I thought that was very interesting on the racial aspect of it, that people reverted back to their racialism whenever they were sort of allowed to by the corporations, whenever they had that ticket.
We see this exactly with every time they want to gin up another war. We saw this with during the Iraq War and later wars, where people were openly talking about the term. And remember, people, I'm just quoting here, historical quotes. The term raghead was used very frequently in films, TV, and you could hear that said, everywhere, even in like live TV broadcasts or old recordings. They talk about terms like that. Now that would be considered terribly racist, but it was all right then because they wanted to fight a war there. So then they could take the lid off it and then ramp it up to 11 to suit their needs.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
I think that's a reflection of what was going on there, and it makes sense as you've both mentioned. The Vietnam War was going on, so that kind of anti, East Asian view was in vogue.
I forgot what I was going to say now. I'm going to have to cut this bit out.
No, it's okay. Let's continue. But do you notice how? Do you want me to say something while you think, or?
Yeah, go on.
God, I've almost forgotten as well. The guy who is jumped by the Japanese guys, he is almost like the right hand man of James Caan's character.
Yeah,
and if you remember in the arena where they faced Japan, you almost get this impression that James Caan's character is out for vengeance because his friend was killed, or I'm not sure if you find it exactly at that point if he's dead or not, but you know he's dying. He's in a really bad way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, James Caan character killed one of their guys first. Remember, because he drags him up his bike, and he throws him into the thing where the ball goes round and it crushes his guy's head. So they technically drew first blood. But
you get the impression that none of that matters. All that matters is
your
side wins, and your side wins, and your side has got to defend itself. So, which is actually quite realistic. I mean, it doesn't matter who shot first, who hit first, or whatever. All that matters is that you win and you survive.
Yeah.
And that's how he plays it. Yeah, it makes sense.
It is very much the football hooligan mentality, isn't it, when you think about it?
Because people are cheering, people are banging on the windows, screaming in joy that people's heads have been crushed.
And you'll notice that they
going in the air.
They cheer even when their own team is down in the ground getting mashed. They just want the spectacle. They don't actually care. They probably don't even care if their own team wins. They just want the spectacle to continue.
And if you notice, they all cheer together, even if the other team gets at a point. It's like they switch sides constantly. Yeah. They're constantly switching sides, but they're shouting for people on the other team. It's brilliant film. It's brilliant filmmaking. These people are lost.
And that's highlighted with the ending, especially. I mean, I just have to mention that. Absolutely electric ending. I love that. I mean,
we're going to ruin it for anyone.
Oh, well,
leave this one.
Film. Ignore the fact that on IMDb, some huge bunch of cretins have given it only 6 out of 10 because people have no taste and they should all go drown in a bog somewhere voluntarily. I'm not advocating anything against them, but I'm saying that voluntarily they should go sit in one till they fall into the waters. But imagine giving a great film like this 6 out of 10. Just watch the film, folks, and ignore the ratings. But it's a fantastic film. Now, we've advised people to watch it. The ending of the film in this is fantastic. Right through it, you're on the edge of your seat thinking any minute now something terrible is going to happen. You know, you're expecting the bad ending because you're built up for it, really. Because you know the corporate interference, you know what they've got against them. You've seen the violence and fragility of the people involved. And then Jonathan comes storming through and the music picks up and you hear them chanting his name. And he goes from this broken, exhausted man to the most determined posture and facial expression you could imagine as he's sort of skating like he's ready to smash through a brick wall as they chant his name. Fantastic. And the music starts up. The same music you heard at the beginning, and it zooms right, and it kind of cuts and zooms right into his face, this determined expression. And the horror of the corporate executives is this hero can't be stopped.
It must have been fantastic when it came up, because obviously televised hockey games and football games, they were all becoming popular in Sky Television. Did they have Sky in 1975? But they must have had televised football games going on, so it must have been something they could really resonate with. The way it was filmed, you could almost imagine it being an actual sport. And there's the shots you're seeing are being filmed by television cameras, and people will be able to associate with that, especially with also scenes coming in from Vietnam. I'd imagine all the handheld journalist footage coming in from there, and people were seeing new horrors that they'd never seen before. And now you had a film that was a little bit like that, but it's set in the future.
And the ending was great because it was, one, it was satisfying, but two, it didn't explain everything. You don't know what happens after that or what goes on, but it was electric right up to the end, but you didn't feel cheated. It was just the perfect sort of balance of an ending for me, where, you know, you could walk away feeling satisfied, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a very dangerous message for the people who are in control of our societies at the moment, that one man can make a difference.
Yeah. Even a hero that refuses to back down, no matter what persuasion, tricks, threats. He just kept sticking to it. And that was all he ever did, really, was just he refused to compromise. And that was all he ever did through the film. He just refused to compromise, no matter what the bribe was or the threat.
Yeah, and not only that, he got good at the game. He got good at playing the game. And so that even when they made the game harder for him, he could adapt anyway because he was the best player.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Well, if we use that as a model, if you like, for the things that are going on nowadays, where things are being controlled more and more by corporations, they still have to play by certain rules. And although these rules are, again, getting made harder, for example, the things that they're doing with social media, where they're banning people, and the arrests and so on that have been made for people speaking out of turn as they see it, and really not doing terribly much at all, but because they've said the wrong few words, they're getting arrested and so on. And they're making it rather difficult for people like us. But there's still rules. And if you just have to play better. And you can, you know, YouTube can be used against itself, just as we're doing. And we've noticed, of course, that they keep stealing subscribers off us.
Or likes.
Or likes, that's
Do you know,
right.
for instance, I've checked one of your videos to look at the comments, and my like had disappeared. Nice try, YouTube, nice try.
Yeah, they've done that to me too. I've noticed that as well. I've liked a comment, and someone's liked my reply, and suddenly it's not in my notification box anymore. It's vanished, and I go back, and I'm like, I like this, mate. I'm in that video. I'm going to like it. You know, I'm not going to unlike it.
So they, you know, they play all these little games and everything, but if you're in the game and you start, you know, and you play it well, you will eventually triumph. And there's lots of ways you can get around things. You know, you can use this as a platform to get people to move to BitChute, for example, and things like that. So every game has its rules, and they have to play by their own rules. And if you outplay them by their own rules, you can win.
There's also in this film the message that people will recognise excellence when they see it, even if the corporate don't like it and the big mainstream opposition don't like it. So if anybody's wanting to do something, if you can do it excellently, it'll still get recognised even by people who should be opposing you.
Yeah.
You know, if you make great music, it's still great music. If you make great food, it's still great food, no matter what your opinions are or what they think of your opinions.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
And that's why they cheered Jonathan, because he was an amazing player. Didn't matter he was on the opposite team. Both sides were cheering Jonathan's name by the end because he was an amazing player. And that's why he was so dangerous, because the corporate realised that people could recognise that a mile away.
Yeah. Very much so. And this is a film really about the triumph of the individual over these featureless corporations that promise comfort and plenty, but at the expense of your freedoms, and at the expense of anything that makes you truly human.
Yeah.
But don't worry, because you're allowed to vote, folks. So there's your freedom. Right there. There's proof.
Yeah. And of course, as we know, voting, it's neither here nor there. What really makes a difference is to actually change the culture and to change the way people think. And, you know, letting the cat out of the bag here, of course, this is what this program's all about.
Yeah. I think we do a pretty good job of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in the context of this film, it doesn't matter if you're waving Team Orange flag or Team Green flag. You know, what the whole fabric is wrong. You know, so you've got to think about that situation, which is what Jonathan, the hero in this, in his own way, had come to realise as he went on. He had his thoughts on comfort, he had his thoughts on freedom, the thoughts on the importance of his wife and family, instead of all the temptations around him.
Yeah, and he was a hero in his own right. He's a free thinker, but at the end of it, he was just being used by a corporation as a thug in a set of roller skates,
and of course,
for other people's entertainment.
He also chose to keep risking his life. He chose discomfort and struggle over the promise of endless comfort and till he died, basically, of old age. He could have just had endless comfort with the prostitutes who were sending him on, you know, giving him pills and whatever else. But instead, he chose the struggle and to fight for his side.
Yeah,
I think not just that, but he recognised that comfort does not make you a man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was almost explicit the way he put it as well as he went on.
Yeah. There are some people in the alt-right who think that we should have lots of comfort, and that we should have a society that's still based on comfort. But I'm of the opposite opinion. I don't. I think that the need for comfort is actually what has led us here.
Especially in we're obviously talking about, you know, the kind of modern Western world, the first world here. It's unless you're an edge case, something's gone wrong. Even on the very lowest, you have comforts that are fantastic. You know, you'll never be cold, you'll never be hungry, you'll have entertainments provided, limitless compared to what even 2 generations ago had. Because you'll have infinite books, you'll have infinite tools for crafts and arts if you wanted. You could have limitless TV and music. The internet can provide goodness knows what for a pittance. Yeah. So the comforts is not really something that anybody has a restriction on now, unless you've got this mad fantasy about living it up like a Hollywood star, which unfortunately a lot of people do. They aspire to what they see in TV and think that that's what they're owed, when in reality that's completely unsustainable and it's completely unhealthy to try and aim for that, especially the masses.
And I was thinking the other day, I was thinking just how easy it is now to get hold of information on your phone, your computer, TV, whatever it is. And I remember not too long ago, and I'm only 36, where you actually had to go outside and go to the library to get a book. And learn stuff. You couldn't just access it from anywhere. You had to wait maybe days, weeks, maybe months before you get a new book out that would explain something to you. But now you can just suck in all this information. In this film, seems to be a lack of information, because I think this information that's on the internet now, it's going to start almost blending into one, and all the facts, all our past, all our history behind us, people are going to completely forget about everything that actually happened, and they're going to focus on stuff, fictional things that people have written. And that's going to be in their minds forever.
Yeah.
That's what
forgetting their own history and their own culture. And it's easy to do that when you've got so much information thrown at you that it's diluting, because people have only so many hours in the day outside their normal social or work demands. So you end up taking a bit of this, a bit of that, and a very shallow sampling of an entire globe's worth of stuff, an entire mainstream media's of shallow content.
But at the same time, they've forgotten their past, where they came from, their culture, and now their culture is this rollerball game. And I'm not going to knock in football fans, but when you see stadiums and they've got anything from 50 to 100,000 people in them screaming for incredibly rich people on the grass playing football, and it makes you wonder, is this the same thing that's going on? Just sort of a big collective of people who there's only one passion in their life, and that is how many goals can their team score?
Well, and let's be honest as well. What connection do these people have to the locality where these teams are based? Absolutely none.
Yeah.
And even now with the international games, you've got the England team, for example. I know you two guys are Scottish, and it's not quite the same there yet. But the England team, most of the team are not ethnically English.
Yeah.
No.
Why
And I don't think
why would I cheer on that team?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Scotland. There's a couple of black guys in there now, but I think let's be honest, the Scottish team on the whole is crap. The Murray seems to play for us. We're not very good at that. But the English team and the French team, and you think it was only 20 years ago when the English team had like maybe one or two black people in it. Paul Ince, whatever his name was. Who's the other guy?
John Barnes, I remember.
John Barnes, that's the one. It was few and far between. But look at it now. You're not going to tell me that's an English team.
Exactly.
Yep.
And this is the problem, of course, with people just going along with it. They've gone along with the society that's being created in Rollerball.
Yeah. Brands and corporations is what they're putting their loyalties in. As if, Mars or some corporation, or Nestle or whatever the sponsor is now the thing to rally behind.
Yeah, just get some young, strong men, healthy men, pay them good money, and get them to kick a ball about. And you have thousands upon thousands of people in the stands who are probably earning pennies compared to the people who are on the pitch shouting and cheering and beating up fans on the other side of the pitch just because they got a different football colour shirt on.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Most of these matches, the working class or lower middle class fans that are typically make up the crowd, they've got the two opposing crowds have far more in common socially, culturally, by blood than anything they'll be cheering for in the pitch, and the things that they're apparently willing to fight for even on the pitch. A bunch of foreign millionaires.
And it's not to be a killjoy, because I've been to football games in my life, and they are exciting things to watch, but that was a long time ago. I just can't bring myself to do it now, because I don't feel I'm cheering on the team I once knew that represents where I'm from. It just seems to represent how to make as much money as possible from people as far away from as possible.
But you could still have, I mean, if they went back to actually local teams, you could still have all the fun of cheering them on and the spectacle, the game, the fun. Yeah. And you'd also have the passion of knowing, this guy's from my town. I really want him to win. Yeah. This guy went to school with me. This guy lives down the road from me, or whatever.
Yeah.
You can have that passion back.
I mean, for a nation of 5 million people, surely there's some young kids out there who are exceptionally good footballers who would love to play for their local team, but they can't, because they'd rather have some guy from Greece or Africa or somewhere in the Far East with a fancy name and to come and represent their local club. No, I want to see someone from my local area do that job. Yeah. I don't care how much money you pay them. Give them something to do.
I'd rather watch people win or lose, or my own local team against another team that's down the road, win or lose on their own merit, than some substitute come in from even from somewhere in Europe, because they don't have the same connection. If I want to watch my local town win or lose, that's what I want to see, because I care about them the most. And that was the whole foundation of football. You had all the various tiny, very local teams, then the regional, then the national and international. But there's no point if you're just watching some guy imported from the other side of the world who I don't know, and he's just paid big bucks. Yeah. He doesn't know me, and I don't know him. There's no connection at all. I don't care if he wins or loses.
Exactly.
That's right. But bringing things to a close, I think now, as a last word, I think that sports is something that people should get into. Nationalists should get into sport, and to become successful. Not just that, to become successful as well at sport, because this film really does address the subject of hero worship, and the sports star is indeed hero worshipped.
It's the one thing you're allowed to hero worship really these days still, openly.
That's right. But of course, if someone is hero worshipped like that and has the masses behind him, and then he suddenly talks about doing it for his own people and doing it for his race and so on, then he's going to take a lot of people with him. Of course, we've seen this in the sport of boxing with Cassius Clay stroke Muhammad Ali. And he, of course, became very powerful to the point where the system was actually worried about him.
Yeah.
Now, I think that it's perhaps time that a white guy took from that example.
You could be the Jonathan E of our time.
Yeah.
He could be, Dave.
I mean, I'm too old, I'm afraid.
Well, it's not me. I'm going to be too old soon.
There's all these people who, will talk big about what they would do or wouldn't do, or the passion they have. Have they got the passion to become excellent in something and become heroic or fantastic or well known in that area, such as a sport?
Yeah.
If you become that heroic or admired, fantastic person, sport especially is something known for hero worship, but also even any other field. If you'll still be admired by your peers and consumers of that art or discipline, whatever it might be, even like martial art, whatever it is, art, making computer games, whatever it is, you'll still be admired. And then if you express your opinions from that position, you'll be respected and listened to by a lot more people than some guy posting edgy things on image boards or YouTube or social media who isn't actually doing anything.
Well said. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a great message to leave it on. So thanks to you two again.
Thank you.
Thanks
Welcome.
to you two out there who are listening, despite YouTube trying to hide this channel. If you can...
We welcome comments at all.
Yes,
subscribe and comment.
That's right. And please share this channel around with your friends and so on, and help the channel to grow. So thanks very much, and we hope to see you next time. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.